Hello everyone and welcome to this week's I've Been Playing. So there's not much I've been playing recently, but there is one game in particular that I wanted to talk about today, and that game is Spiritfarer. Spiritfarer is a game that was released very recently, though I'm not sure of the actual release date. I couldn't find it anywhere, but it was within the last 2 weeks or so, I want to say. At least that's when it appeared on Xbox Game Pass, which, as it happens, is where I'm playing it. Seriously, Game Pass is such a good value if you don't have it. You should check it out. This game is on every platform, so it is on Switch, PS4, Xbox, Steam. It's even on Stadia if you're using that, if anyone is using that. It's there. It feels to me most like a Switch game. I don't know why that is. It may be because of the visuals. That's not to discredit the visuals at all. They are beautiful. It is a beautiful, beautiful game, both visually and aurally. Everything going on around you is very, very pretty, very stylized, just gorgeous art style in general. I think the main reason I say that, though, is because it's one of those games where you have little 5-minute tasks to take care of, so it's one of those things you can whip out in the car, for example. Not while you're driving, don't do that, but if you're riding in a car with somebody, then you can take your Switch out, kind of take care of a couple of tasks, and then put it away again. And that's kind of the whole gameplay is kind of based around mechanics like that, so that, I think, is why it feels most to me like a Switch game. That said, I did see something online that said the whole game is about 20 hours long if you want to go through all of it, so maybe in that respect, it's not best for the Switch, and, you know, it's one of those things that looks like it wouldn't really take all that long, but there is a very long story apparently, and there are very many different things to do, some of which we'll get to in a minute. I've already talked about the art style and the music as well, both of which are very, very, very good, but I wanted to also bring up that there's very minimal voice acting. I don't know if that's a plus or a minus. I guess it depends on your take, but that's just something that you maybe want to be aware of. I don't know. Also, before we get into it, apparently there was a bit of a controversy surrounding this game in one line in particular. Now, I don't know what it is. I haven't found it yet. That's not saying it's not there. I just haven't gotten that far in the game yet. The developers have addressed it. They have said, I believe, if I remember correctly, that they are going to address it and potentially patch it. But apparently there was one storyline that was problematic. They do seem to be taking care of that issue. Now, onto the game itself. It is super beautiful. It is also really, really, really cute. Like, all the sprites and the characters and everything, they're super cute. The spirits are super cute. It almost has a very Ghibli-esque feel about it a lot of the time. To get into the plot of the game a little bit, there's obviously it's a 20-hour game. It's very emotional and very kind of, I don't want to say slow-paced exactly, but it does take its time, and it is very story-driven because of the type of game it is. So I'm not going to go too much into the specifics, and I don't have any clips that are from particularly late in the game. All of this is within the first probably hour and a half of me playing, because I don't want to ruin anything necessarily, because I feel like it's a very personal, emotional journey from what I can tell. Essentially, the plot is that you have taken over as Spiritfarer, hence the name of the game, so you are ferrying spirits, essentially, to the afterlife. That's kind of it. It's not it. A main mechanic of the games is to make sure that the spirits are comfortable and their mood stays good, and that you can feed them. There's cooking in the game, so you can feed them, maintain their mood as they kind of travel on their way through their journeys, through what has happened to them in their life, and they're kind of coming to grips with and accepting, perhaps, that they're moving on and they're passing on, and they pass through what is called the Everdoor. It's the Everdoor that, at the end of their story arc, you take them to, and then their spirit is released into whatever afterlife happens to be in this game. So that's the main plot of the game. As I said, I'm not going to get into any specific story stuff, because each spirit has their own specific story, and it's a very important part of the game to discover their story, their backstory, their history, and so far they all seem related to the main character, whose name is Stella, and it feels like there's some bigger overarching story that I'm definitely not far enough to even speculate on, let alone spoil. So I've already mentioned that you're ferrying spirits to the afterlife, so the way you do this is you invite them on your boat. You have a boat, and you can host them on your boat. You have guest houses for each individual spirit eventually, and again, we'll get into that in just a second. But you want to make sure they're comfortable as they move along. So I've mentioned the cooking. Part of their mood is that you have to keep them fed. You have to make sure they don't starve. And you can do that by cooking and giving them food. They have specific likes and dislikes, all of them. They're all different. So some of them won't eat, for example, fruit. Some of them won't eat any meat products. Stuff like that. You have to keep that in mind and make sure you always have food for everyone and keep them fed. You have to make sure they're comfortable. You can give them hugs, which is the most adorable thing ever. But you can also give them their own personalized quarters, and you can upgrade that. So there are a lot of ship upgrades. There are a lot of personal space upgrades. There are upgrades to your character as well. I've only gotten one so far, but I got a double jump, and I'm assuming that you get more and more of those. As I said, I've only found the one, and not even just got the one, I've only found the one. And you get more upgrades that way as you progress. There's also a place where you can upgrade the size of your ship and other amenities on your ship, essentially. So you have to do that by getting resources, as you do. You can get resources by finding them on islands, by chopping down trees, by collecting things, or by growing things. You can garden as well. You can have an orchard, you can have a field, you can have a garden, so you can grow different types of things in different places and get new materials that will help you upgrade, which will in turn let you progress the story, because you will be able to, once you upgrade sometimes, or even once you go to certain islands or do certain things, or maybe after a certain amount of time for some of them, I'm not entirely clear on that, the spirits you are ferrying at the time will have quests for you to do. In this respect, it feels a little like Animal Crossing. I would say it probably feels more like Stardew Valley, though I've never played Stardew Valley. It feels like, from what I've seen of gameplay of that, it feels like it's very much the same kind of scratches the same kind of itch that Stardew Valley does. And I know Stardew Valley is deeper than it looks. I have a feeling that in that respect, it's also similar. So I'd say, as far as it goes, it's mostly clear and easy to understand. A lot of it is built around these upgrades. So that's fairly straightforward for the most part. It's a little unclear sometimes where or how you get some of these materials. There's something called, I think, Nebula Thread or something like that. And I went to an area that supposedly had that resource, and I couldn't harvest it or didn't know how. I suspect maybe I didn't have the spirit that I needed, because often the spirits you ferry also teach you certain techniques. So I learned from one spirit how to craft linen, another one how to make planks. So I suspect this has to do with me not having the right spirit for that specific resource yet, but it doesn't necessarily make that clear unless that spirit is already on your ship. There are also some materials that seem like they're locked behind progression gates, and it's not super clear which those are versus which maybe you just straight up haven't found the island for yet. So to jump off of that last point, it is a little bit open world. There are some areas you can't get to for story reasons, I suspect, because there's one island in particular I'm thinking of that you had to get an icebreaker on the front of your boat, and you couldn't do that until after you completed the story arc for one of the spirits, because you needed one specific item. So it's open world to a degree. You can go to basically any island you want, and that's related to gathering resources, although I don't know if you know until you go there what resources are there. I don't think you do. Sometimes you do, sometimes you don't. That's something that's not necessarily clear that I haven't figured out yet. But you can go to different islands to collect whatever you need, and the resources, at least the trees it said, I suspect the rocks as well, will reappear if you need them to. I think that's all I want to say about it. As I said, it's a very, very soothing game, but I can tell already I've only let one spirit go, but I can already tell it's gonna be super emotional and basically probably wreck me by the end of the game. But I do really like it so far. I'm enjoying the writing. It's very well written. I do care about all of the spirits I have on my boat and everyone around the world. Even kind of the lesser characters that I don't think you necessarily have to ferry to the afterlife yourself. They're just basically background NPCs. They have a little bit of character, you know, they repeat lines sometimes, but they do have a bit of character to them. They're all a little bit different. They're all kind of playing off each other, and it's super interesting, and all of the individual arcs of the characters and the spirits themselves are interesting, and you get to learn more about them as you spend time with them, and then you get really attached to them, and then they leave. So yeah, you can tell that it's gonna be hell on the heartstrings, but it's really, really good. Well, thank you for joining me for this episode. I hope you enjoyed it. If you want to check out Spiritfarer, let me know. I'll put a link to more information in the description, and I will see you in the next episode. Bye!